60 years ago, South Korea was poorer than Ghana. It had no oil, no natural resources,
no industrial base.
It had just survived one of the most devastating wars of the 20th century. Today, it builds the chips inside your phone, the ships crossing every ocean, the screens in your living room, the batteries powering the electric vehicle revolution. How does a country go from war-torn and broke to quietly running the world? Here's the story nobody tells. 6 industries. 6 reasons the world depends on a country most people couldn't find on a map 30 years ago. Reason number 1. The chips that run the world. South Korea makes the memory inside almost every device on Earth. Samsung and SK Hynix together control over 70% of the global DRAM memory chip market. DRAM is the memory that makes computers think. Without it, nothing runs. Your laptop, hospital machines, data centers running Netflix, Google, and every bank on the planet. They all run on South Korean memory. When a factory fire hit a Samsung chip plant in 2013, global memory prices spiked within days.
No explosión.
No war. Just one building. Prices moved worldwide. South Korea didn't stumble into this industry. The government deliberately chose it in the 1980s, poured investment in, and protected it until it dominated. Now the world has no choice but to buy from them. Remove South Korea from the semiconductor map, and the global tech industry doesn't slow down. It stops. Reason number 2. They build the ships that move the world. Every container of goods crossing the ocean likely traveled on a ship built in South Korea. South Korea builds roughly 40% of the world's new ships every year. Hyundai Heavy Industries, Samsung Heavy Industries, and Daewoo, 3 companies, 1 country, nearly half of global shipbuilding output. We're not talking about small boats. We're talking about supertankers carrying oil for the Middle East. LNG carriers transporting liquefied natural gas from Qatar to Europe. Container ships stacking thousands of steel boxes bound for American ports. The energy transition depends on LNG ships. South Korea builds more of them than anyone else, by a wide margin. If South Korean shipyards stopped taking orders tomorrow, the global shipping industry would face a backlog that couldn't be filled for a decade. China builds ships too, but not at the specialized high-tech end of the market. Not yet. The world floats on South Korean steel. Reason number 3. One company that runs a country. Samsung isn't just a phone brand. It is, in many ways, South Korea. Samsung Electronics alone accounts for roughly 20% of South Korea's total exports. Think about that. One company. 1/5 of an entire nation's export economy. But Samsung isn't just one company. It's a conglomerate that builds chips, ships, apartment buildings, life insurance products, and military equipment. Koreans call these giants chaebol, family-owned industrial empires that rebuilt the country from scratch. When Samsung has a good year, South Korea's GDP goes up. When Samsung faces a crisis, like the Galaxy Note 7 fires in 2016, the national economy feels it directly. That's not normal for any company anywhere in the world. No other nation on Earth has allowed a single private company to become so structurally fused with national economic output, and it worked. Samsung became one of the most valuable technology companies in human history. They didn't build a company inside an economy. They built an economy around a company. Reason number 4. The most educated workforce on Earth. South Korea has one of the highest university enrollment rates in the world, and it showed up in every factory, lab, and boardroom. Over 70% of South Korean young adults attend university. The OECD consistently ranks South Korea among the top nations in math, science, and reading. But it goes deeper than statistics. Korean culture built an almost religious intensity around education. The Hagwon, private after-school academies, are a multi-billion-dollar industry. Students study past midnight. Parents sacrifice everything for their children's academic performance. This wasn't an accident of culture. The Korean government in the 1960s made a deliberate bet. With no oil, no minerals, and no land, the only resource worth investing in was people. So they built a workforce that could outcompete anybody in precision manufacturing, engineering, and technology development. The chips, the ships, the screens, none of it happens without the engineers who design them. South Korea didn't find its resources underground. It built them. Reason number 5. How culture became an export industry. South Korea turned music, film, and food into a multi-billion-dollar export machine. The Korean wave Hallyu generates over $10 billion annually for the South Korean economy. And that number is almost certainly an undercount. BTS alone was estimated to contribute $5 billion per year to Korea's economy at their peak, through tourism, merchandise, and the global brand lift it gives to Korean products. But this isn't just about music. Parasite won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 2020, the first non-English film to do so. Squid Game became Netflix's most-watched show in history, viewed in 94 countries within weeks of release. Every time a Korean show goes global, Korean food, Korean skincare, Korean fashion, and Korean tourism spike in the countries watching it. The Korean government understood this feedback loop and actively funded cultural exports through dedicated agencies. This is soft power converted directly into hard economic returns. South Korea doesn't just make things the world buys. It makes culture the world wants to become. Reason number 6. Thriving at the edge of the world's most dangerous border. South Korea built one of the world's most powerful economies with 25 million hostile soldiers 35 miles from its capital. North Korea has one of the largest standing armies on Earth. It has nuclear weapons. And its border sits just 35 miles from Seoul, a city of 10 million people that generates over half of South Korea's entire GDP. This is the geopolitical gamble no textbook fully explains. Every foreign investor, every multinational company, every tech firm putting money into South Korea is betting that the peninsula stays stable. And for 70 years, that bet has paid off. But it's also why South Korea became so aggressive about economic development in the first place. Speed was survival. Build fast, export fast, grow fast, because the alternative was permanent vulnerability. The threat never went away. So South Korea never stopped running. It also sits directly between China, Japan, and the U.S. Pacific military presence, making it one of the most strategically critical pieces of real estate on Earth. Every major power needs South Korea stable. That's leverage. Surrounded by giants, South Korea made itself too valuable to be expendable. In 1960, South Korea's GDP per capita was roughly $158. Today, it sits above $35,000, higher than several Western European nations. That is not evolution. That is one of the most dramatic economic transformations in the history of human civilization, compressed into a single lifetime. No oil. No empire.
No inherited wealth.
No geographic advantage. Just a deliberate, relentless, sometimes brutal national decision to outwork, out-engineer, and out-educate every competitor on Earth. The chips in your phone. The ship that carried your furniture. The show you watched last weekend. The screen you're watching this on right now. South Korea didn't get lucky. It got strategic. And while the world was busy watching other countries, South Korea quietly built the infrastructure the modern world cannot function without. You don't have to be big to be indispensable. You just have to be irreplaceable. If this changed how you see South Korea, subscribe.